Today I'm going to show you how to use the healing brush, the clone stamp, and the content aware fill tools. And those, mainly all of them are for getting rid of things that you don't want in your picture, things that are in the way. They're not for getting rid of buildings, they're not for getting rid of entire people or huge trash cans, they're for getting rid of small imperfections. So keep that in mind, because when you try to get rid of big things, almost always it shows. It almost always shows. But I'm going to show you here how those tools can work. And they're different tools for different things. Okay? Alright, so in this picture, what do you think is distracting in this picture? No, water is kind of important. Look at this foreground. See this little thing in the foreground here? The light here? Right? Let's get rid of that light. So, one thing you want to do when you do this is figure out what is in the way, what is distracting from the picture. So your eye goes right to this light area because it's the only light area that's in that darkness. And so if we can get rid of that, we can make a huge difference. So just like everything in Photoshop, there are several ways to do it. So I'm going to show you two ways to get rid of this one thing. One way is called content aware fill. And what that is you take an area that has something that you want to get rid of that's surrounded by stuff that Photoshop can fill in. And this is a perfect example of where to use that. There's a lot of stuff back here Photoshop can use for reference to fill it in. So what we're going to do to make that work is we're going to come to this tool that's called the lasso tool. So if we go on the lasso tool, this is called a selection tool. And so on selection tools, you'll see that it turns into a lasso with a point on it. You start where the point is. You left mouse click, hold it down, draw around your selection, and you always have to meet your selection at the beginning because that's what creates what we call marching ants. And when you see the marching ants, that means that's a selection. When you see all these things moving, that means it's a selection. You have to start at one spot and end at the same spot. So how do I get out of go back one step in Photoshop? Control Z or Control Alt Z, right? So I'm going to start over, draw around this. I'm going to go all the way around the outside to make sure I get this and come back to the point where I started, and then it turns into marching ants. That makes it a selection. Now, if I right-click in the middle of this, in this selection, I can go to Fill. When I click on Fill, it has a drop-down menu with several items, but the thing we care about is the content aware. So we want to make sure content aware is selected. We want to make sure it's at 100%. Then we click OK, and then you watch Photoshop fill that in. So let's back that up and show you again. Right-click, fill, content aware, and 100% are already selected, and I say OK, and you see that it took that all out. To deselect on any selection where you have marching ants, Control D. Control D for deselect. Control D for deselect. Now you see it got rid of that light that was there that our eyes kept going to, and now we pay more attention to the feet that are in this picture, right? We don't pay so much attention to that light area. Okay? So that's a really good thing. That is one way to get rid of it. So let's get it back and show you another way. Another way is to use the clone stamp tool. That looks exactly like what I said is a clone stamp here. So the clone stamp tool, if you click on it, it turns into a brush. Anytime you see a circle in Photoshop, that means it's a brush. And brushes have a lot of options of what you can do with it. The main thing you need to know is that you can resize the brush by using the bracket keys on your keyboard. The right bracket makes your brush bigger. The left bracket makes it smaller. The bracket keys are located right above the Enter key on your keyboard. The left bracket makes it smaller. The right bracket makes it bigger. You can also go into the tool palette up here. If you go into the brush tool palette up here, you can click the drop down on this and you have some other selections. You can click a bunch of different brushes. We're not going to go over that right now. So we'll do that a little bit later. Alright, so in the tool palette you can say resize your brush by using the size up here, but why you don't want to use this to resize your brush is that you have to move it and then check the size. Move it, check the size. move it, check the size. Instead of, if you're already over here, all you have to do is move your bracket keys left or right, click on them, and you can change the size and see exactly what size you want. Okay? You also, in the drop-down menu for our palette for the brushes, is you have this hardness scale. All the way to the left at 0 is a soft brush. Almost always we want to use soft brushes. Very rarely do we use it all the way hard. So keep it on 0, as soft as you can get. Otherwise you're going to see hard edges on when you do your clone stamp. So now with the clone stamp, also we can make the image bigger. How do we make it bigger? Control plus. So once I've done that and I want to get to the small area, if I hit my space bar, you'll see that the cursor turns into a hand. And then I can move the picture. If I keep the space bar down, I can move the picture and come into just where I want it to be. Okay? So hold the space bar down, the cursor turns into a hand, and it allows me to move my picture around to certain areas. So this is a way to check if everything's sharp, check if there's anything in here I want to get rid of, etc. Okay? So the clone stamp, what it does is it takes information from one area and stamps it over another area. It takes information from one area and stamps it over another area. So on this little spot here, the way you do it is you hold the Alt key down and you'll see it turns into a target. That's to take the area I want to take from. So I have that little area there, left mouse click, and I come over and I can just drop that over the area I want to clone stamp in. Okay? So I'm taking information from this area and I'm putting it in this area. So if I come over here to this big area and I come all the way over here and I take information here, I can come over and kind of just draw this in. And you'll notice behind the circle is a plus. That's telling you where it's taking the information from. You see the plus in there as I'm going along? So I'm going to use the Alt key again and come up, and I can take it. Now, the danger with using the clone stamp is if you look very closely at this, you'll see that you see duplicated things here, duplicated stuff. And people tend to use clone stamp, and this is how almost always how we tell is we see duplicated areas very often when people use the clone stamp. And so it's not as effective on something like this as the content-aware fill would be. It's good for getting rid of that one small area, or maybe even like this. I'll take the information from up here and I'll just come along and I can kind of paint it in here and get that out. But then again, you saw that it had a duplicate of that, and so it tends to look the same. Hold on one second. Okay, back again. So now we got rid of all those lights that are down there, making that picture a whole lot better. So here's another one. So this is super distracting having this person back here, right? What would we use to take that out, do you think? Let's try the content-aware fill. So we have the lasso tool. We're going to come around it, all the way around the outside, and meet it again so we get the marching ants. Now what do I do? Right-click, go down to fill, say OK. So now you notice that it did that so that it looks fairly natural, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the background will look fake or something, so you have to be very careful about that. But in this case, I think it really helped. Whereas if I try to do this with the clone stamp, it's going to be almost impossible because, and the clone stamp always remembers your last thing. That's what's inside that circle. So I hold the Alt key down and I come over here and I shift over it and hold this down. But then you see I have these matching things here. And that's always distracting to see the exact same element again in your picture. So it's a way we can always tell when something has been clone stamped. The content-aware fill is usually a lot more accurate and won't do it quite as badly as that. So let's do content-aware fill. Say OK, and then we can get rid of that. So it looks pretty good now. And you can also try it a couple times because it sometimes changes. Each time you use it, it'll make it a little bit different inside there. So that's one thing. So then we also can, let's look at this picture. So if we come in down here and we look at this road here, we see that there are, actually not. I think we got rid of all the stuff in here. So if I want to get rid of something like this, or little spots, or even like little dots that are somewhere like in here, you see the little dots on the ground. I mean, those would be minor things, but let's say there was a piece of trash or this gray thing. You can use the spot healing brush instead. So if you use the spot healing brush, you have a brush again, and you want to make sure that it's on the default. So don't change anything up here. And what you do is you just brush over that area, and it immediately eliminates things really, really well. Little dots, especially little tiny spots of where there's an issue. So if there's like this here, or this little spot here even, it can probably get rid of. And it will do what it tries to do. It's like content aware fill, but big areas it's not so good with. It's really good with small areas of something that's kind of distracting, and it'll get rid of them. Like even the spot on the ball, it tries to blend it in really well. So it's really effective for those types of things, small things. It's also really effective for getting rid of blemishes on faces and stuff, because I don't think she has any, but if she had any, well, let's say these couple down here that are mostly freckles, you can just come in and do that, and it immediately gets rid of them really, really easily. So if we wanted to even, like, this is like how people retouch. They use the spot healing brush a lot, that they can retouch some things. And we're going to do that later in the semester, where you have to retouch something, and we'll show you a bunch of different ways. But it's a really effective tool for getting rid of small little tiny things you don't want in your picture. So those are 3 tools you can use to get rid of areas that you don't want. So if we come back to this one, and we say we have like this whole dark area, we can come and use the clone stamp and come over again. Remember, it remembers the last one, so it holds that in there until you hit the Alt key. And I can come from above it, and I can just go like this, and I can make my brush bigger or smaller depending on what area I want to cover. If I know I want to cover a large area, I can come in and make my brush really big. If I know I want to cover a small area, I can make my brush much smaller and come over and use that. Now, I'm going to show you the difference between a hard and a soft brush. And using the clone stamp is kind of fun, because I can make a bunch of these dots, these balls in here. So I'm going to use the clone stamp, and I'm going to grab that. And I can move it over. You can see there's another one. I can come over here, and I can make a bunch of them. Okay? But if I use, that's with the soft edge. If I use a hard edge on it, on the brush, so I come back into the brush palette and I move this all the way to hard, it's going to show a very hard edge around it. So when I come here, you can see how it made a hard edge on that. So if I come in and I duplicate this over and over again, how it has a very hard edge and it doesn't blend very well. When we're trying to blend something in with the background, we want the soft edge on the brush. And of course, it's always fun to kind of play with pictures of people. So you can come into a person and you can kind of, let's go back to the soft edge so that we actually looks like it'll blend in and make her have 3 eyes. Okay? Or make her have a mouth at the top of her head. So you can do a lot of stuff with the clone stamp, and that's a lot of fun. But the main thing is to get rid of small, unwanted things, not big things. Don't do that, because almost always we can tell when that's been done. But to get rid of small little areas that are distracting or in the way. And so even like if we come in here with our healing brush, I can get rid of, using the brush, I'll make the brush a little bigger, and get rid of little spots that you see on the on this background. So it just draws your attention to things that you want to, that's not going to work, draws your attention to some things you might want to get rid of, and gets rid of them. Okay?